Hello everybody, long time no see. I hope you're all well. This video is going to be the video that a lot of you have asked me to make about my visit to the Tinnitus Clinic in Harley Street. I know this is long overdue. I actually visited the clinic way back in September, but life as always has just been very busy, and if I don't make this video tonight I'll probably never get around to it. So I'll be referring to my notes as I go through this because it was a long time ago, so I've got my notes to refer to. So was it worth the £200 consultation fee that I paid to visit this clinic? So let's get into my experience with it. The first part of my consultation with the doctor at this clinic was to discuss my history with tinnitus, the probable cause and how it affects or has affected my life, etc. So I explained how I was first struck with tinnitus. Now most of you know about all of this, and I've spoken about it many times in many of my videos, so I'm not going to go through all that again. But I explained to the doctor that I'd managed to go from an initial level 10, where I was suicidal, to a level 1 or 2, to where I am now, not hearing it, and what methods I used to get there, etc. And again, I'm not going to go through all of the methods, etc., because it's all in my other videos. The doctor, he then went on to talk to me about hair cell damage at length. Hair cell damage. So he spoke to me at length about hair cell damage, after which I went on to say to him that I believe the sound that I hear as my tinnitus is being created by the brain. It's not my ears. There's nothing wrong with my ears. And I believe, for me at least, and other people, it's much more of a neurological problem than anything else. And he agreed that the sound, the tinnitus tone, whatever you hear as your tinnitus, is created within the brain. The phantom sound, it is created within the brain, regardless of possible hair cell damage as a cause. So on that we agreed, it's the brain creating the sound. However, when it came to the actual cause of what I consider the main overwhelming cause for my tinnitus, I put it to him that I believed it was high levels of stress, and for want of a better description, or want of a better way of putting it, a neurological breakdown of my mind, in my head. And on that note, I could tell that we were no longer on the same page. I could tell that he wasn't going to go for this. As his reaction was to say to me, well, when we've conducted some tests, we will have a much better idea of the cause, and we can discuss possible treatments that we could offer you. And so straight away, he's thinking hair cell damage as the be-all and end-all and the cause, okay? So, and I must just say, I did like this doctor. I did like him. He was very, very nice, even though we disagreed on a couple of things, but I did like him. He seemed genuinely wanting to help. And I actually said to him, you're thinking hair cell damage, aren't you? And he answered, yes, it's all hair cell damage related. Now, we'd already spoken about how it's the brain that creates the noise that we hear as tinnitus, and on that he agreed. And yes, while I do believe that there are indeed people who have noise trauma, hair cell damaged induced tinnitus through hair cell damage, that's true, it happens, okay, it's true. However, I do not believe, and I've said this many times, so this won't come as anything of a shock to any of you, I do not believe that it's the case that it is always hair cell damage that is the cause or reason for everyone that has tinnitus. Why? Well, for a start, I haven't any significant hearing loss, and what I do have is very, very minor, well within normal parameters of anyone my age, and I haven't suffered any significant noise trauma to my ears. My hearing is fine, and a lot of you have heard me say this before, and this is what I was trying to tell this doctor. Okay, but furthermore, not everyone with hearing loss, and this is what I said to the doctor, not everyone with hearing loss sufferers, has tinnitus. Okay, so not everyone with hearing loss has tinnitus, and you can reverse it. Not everybody with tinnitus has severe hearing loss, okay, such as myself. Alright, so again, this notion that it's always a hair cell damage, I don't agree with, and I told the doctor this. It's not your ear, okay, it is your brain. But it doesn't always, the cause is not always hair cell damage. It can happen, it does happen. A good example of this is my friend who, unfortunately, he does have noise trauma induced tinnitus, hair cell damage. His hair cells are damaged or dead, but his tinnitus still goes up and down. It still fluctuates. He can have periods of time at a level 3 or 4. He never really gets below that 3 or 4, so that's good for him, 3 or 4. But he can also have spikes where it goes up to like 6, 7, 8 or more, and it goes up and down, and that's not his hair cells. I've said this before. That's not his hair cells dying, growing back again. Okay, because they can't do that. It's his brain creating the sound. But I'm going over old ground with that. Okay, I've spoken about that many times. So the doctor proceeded to conduct his tests on me. Now, the first set of tests. That's right. That's what he did. Yeah. The first set of tests were hearing tests, which I've had many, many times before with ENTs, etc. at the hospital, and so nothing new there. And he went through all the ranges of hearing with beeps and tones, and he showed me a graph on the screen to show of any hearing loss in my results. And when he pointed to the screen, after I had these tests, he pointed to the screen, and there's a graph, and he said to me, this looks like noise trauma damage to me. Okay, so again, he's on this hair cell notion. Now, I've seen this graph of my hearing tests many times before, this pattern on this graph, and I recognise the pattern on the screen. And I know from speaking to other doctors, etc., who I've had, and specialists, tinnitus specialists, etc., that the hearing loss that I have is extremely minor and minimal. And I had this hearing loss before I had tinnitus anyway, okay? And it hasn't changed, it hasn't got worse, it stayed the same. So I've seen this before. And I said to the doctor, I said, yes, okay, I've seen this before. And as I understand it, this graph that you're showing me only shows minimal hearing loss, minimal minor hearing loss. Is that correct, in your opinion? And he answered, yes, that's right, your hearing loss is very minor. It's nothing to worry about. Your hearing is good. Okay. So my next question was, so if this hearing loss you're pointing out to me is so minimal, if this shows such a negligible amount of hearing loss or damage, could this be the cause of my tinnitus? Now, to that he answered, well, it's certainly probable that it would have contributed to it. That was his answer to that. Now, that's not a yes or no, and it's certainly not a definitive answer to my question. And in any case, I had this, as I say, I've had this hearing loss before I had tinnitus. So I said to him, do you think that this amount of hearing loss that I have would produce or would be responsible? Because I wasn't going to let him off of this question. Do you think that this amount of hearing loss that I have could or would be responsible or capable of creating the level 10 tinnitus when I was first struck with it and suffered with for a while during those first awful months? Would this amount of hearing loss be capable of producing this level of tinnitus, this level 10 suicidal level of tinnitus, like someone playing a damn electric keyboard at full volume in my head to the point where I wanted to pull my skull apart? And his answer was, it's difficult to give an answer, but it will certainly have contributed to it. So, the same as before, still no definitive answer, but I moved on from that because I didn't want to labour it anymore and I wasn't going to get into say no. So then he said to me that he wanted to conduct a next set of tests, and these, he said he's going to conduct the next set of tests, and these tests will give him an idea of the actual sound. This is quite interesting. Will give him an idea of the actual sound that I hear as my tinnitus, so the actual tone that I hear. And this is something new to me. I'd not had tests by anybody else that can allow the other person to hear or recreate the sound that I hear as my tinnitus. So this really interested me because I'd not had this before. And I'm not exactly sure how this worked, but it involved wearing headphones and having tones and sounds played into my ear, similar to the hearing tests. But this time, the doctor was asking me to try to hear my tinnitus, to actively listen for or tune into the tinnitus tone that I hear. And I can tell you that being asked to actually tune into the sound that I hear as my tinnitus or try and find it, when I got to the stage where I wasn't hearing it, I wasn't too happy about doing that, and it wasn't something I was expecting to be asked to do, and I wasn't enthusiastic about this at all. But I wanted to get the good results, so I said, okay, right, I'll do that. And in doing this, actively seeking it out while he's playing these sounds into my ear and into my brain, my brain found the tinnitus tone, and I could hear it clearly, and my perception of it went right up to something like a level 3, because I was listening for it and I was tuning into it. Now, everything I talk about on my channel, and I said this to the doctor as well, is the polar opposite of doing this. It's the absolute polar opposite of doing this, tuning into it. That's the last thing you want to do. So I wasn't too happy about having to do that, because I wasn't hearing it when I went into the clinic, and of course after being asked to tune into it, it was now like a level 3, so my brain found it. Anyway, after about 15 minutes of having tones and sounds played into my ears, there was a stage, this is bizarre, there was a stage at which I was no longer able to hear the tinnitus tone. Or put it another way, it felt like he reached a point with whatever he was playing into my head. It felt like that the tone that I was hearing had been absorbed or swallowed within the sounds being played into my ears. Okay, that's how it felt. That's how I can describe it. So, thankfully, those tests didn't last long, and I was relieved when the doctor said the tests were completed. And I took the headphones off, and the tone was there. It was higher than when I went into the clinic because I had been actively seeking it out, and when I took the headphones off I could hear it clearly. So that wasn't too good, but it did start to come down, so it was okay. Again, he pointed to the screen and he said to me, well, the good news is the sound you're hearing, this is the interesting part of this. When he pointed to the screen, he said to me, well, the good news is the sound you're hearing as your tinnitus does not correlate or match to this dip in your hearing range, right? Now, I didn't really see this as good news, particularly as it's not really helping in regards to the clinic maybe being able to offer me a treatment that may have been of help to me. But anyway, I asked him, are you saying that the hearing loss I have is not responsible, going back to what I'd asked him earlier, are you saying that the hearing loss that I have is not responsible for my having tinnitus? And his answer was, not entirely, and not according to what I'm looking at with the results. So that's a no to me, pointing at the screen. Although it will be contributing to it. Alright? And he also told me that I have tinnitus in both my ears. He used the word ears. I have tinnitus in both my ears, but predominantly in the right side, and I already knew this. But it's not my ears, it's my head, it's my brain. And I don't like describing it as my ears. It's in my brain. I prefer to say that because that's where it's coming from. And I told the doctor this. It's not in my ears, it's in my brain. And again, he agreed, yes, that's what he really meant. The phantom sound is being created by the brain, but I'm hearing it in both sides. Okay, fine. So, but the interesting thing about that was he was actually saying to me now at this point that my hearing loss dip does not correlate to the sound that I hear as tinnitus. So that's what I was getting at right at the start of our conversation. So we chatted for a while about other possible factors that may have been a factor with me being struck with tinnitus, including my motorcycle accident that I had many years ago where I damaged the back of my head and my neck, and the fact that this area at the back of my head has a direct effect on my tinnitus tone. I've spoken about this before in other videos. Anyone that doesn't believe that, that's fine. I'm telling you it's true because it is. Okay, this area at the back of the head has a direct effect on the tinnitus that I hear with cranial sacral therapy, etc., etc. But where did all these tests and talking with the doctor leave me in regards to any treatment they could possibly offer? Bearing in mind that when I went into the clinic I wasn't hearing my tinnitus at all, pretty much. Well, this clinic offers many treatments, including behavioural therapy and relaxation training. And I've heard people who have been to the clinic said they were very good with this. and I'm all for that. That's my whole kind of thing, the calming of the mind. I'm on the same I'm on the same platform as Julian Cohen-Hill in regards to all of that. Everything that Julian says, I pretty much agree with all of that, and that's where I am with it. But their main focus, the clinic, their main focus and area of treatment is for noise trauma related tinnitus. So hair cell damage is what they really centre around, because they know what that is. Anything more neurological than that, I think there's still a lot of work to be done. And anyway, for noise-related trauma-induced tinnitus, they offer a lot in regards of devices, auditory devices, and products. Some of these, I went through a couple of them with him. Some of these you wear during the day, others you wear at night when you're sleeping, and I'm sure that some people have found these of help. Well, I know that some people have found them of help because I've had contact from some of you, and I've spoken about this in a couple of my videos, who have used these devices, and you've told me that their tinnitus was reduced by using their treatments and devices that the clinic offer. And one guy told me that the device that he was using, Levo system, reduced his tinnitus, he thinks, by about 50%. So great, fantastic, that's good. However, others have said to me that after paying around £5,000, that it made no difference whatsoever. As for myself, having had all these tests and speaking with the doctor at length to where I am with my own tinnitus, level 1 or 2, and at best, like today, level 0, not hearing it, the doctor actually said to me, as you've got to a point, Adrian, where you're not hearing your tinnitus at all during the day, I'm sorry, I don't think there is anything that we could offer you that would give you any further reduction or improvement. The progress, he said to me, the progress that you've made in what you're doing by yourself is significant, and more so than anything that we could offer you at this point. So in a way, that's good. That was good news for me, because although it was surprising to me, but encouraging, that what I've been doing myself is in his opinion, better than anything they could offer me. But also, in a way, that he was being honest, and he wasn't trying to push or pressure sell me one of their devices' expensive products. He wasn't trying to pressure me into buying one, saying this will, completely rid you, etc., etc. So in that way, I thought that was quite good and honest of him. And to me, that said the doctor, he was actually genuine, and he is looking to actually help people if he thinks the clinic could help them. But for me, there was no point in going down the road any further with anything offered by this clinic. That doesn't mean that I don't think that the Tinnitus Clinic couldn't help others, because I think they probably can, particularly with noise trauma-induced tinnitus, because as I say, that's what they centre everything around. But I wanted to ask the doctor about what is being looked at in regards of research towards real cures and treatments and help for those who aren't making any real progress and are still suffering badly, and I know a lot of people still are. And the doctor kindly took some extra time to tell me about how he and others are trying to come up with real progress towards a cure, and he told me, his actual words to me were, he actually said to me, "We're working really hard to try and find a cure for all of you. I can't tell you how hard we're trying, and to try and find a cure. So be assured, it's something that we all want." And I think he was very sincere in that. And we spoke about various advances in the auditory devices. While these certainly seem to be getting better at doing what they're supposed to do, i.e. reduce your tinnitus, the doctor was of the opinion that the real holy grail for those with tinnitus is going to come in the form of stem cell technology, or stem cell science, healing, regrowing hair cells, but more than that, actually growing new cells that can be put into the body to heal or replace damaged or dead hair cells. So stem cell technology type stuff. And as bizarre as this sounds, and it does sound bizarre, but it makes sense, as strange as this is, some of the research that's coming from experiments that they're doing with reptiles and amphibian DNA cells from lizards and frogs, would you believe, as incredibly they can regrow cells to the point where they can actually regrow limbs, legs and arms and body parts. So it's strange, but they're using frogs and lizards because they can regrow parts of their body, they can regrow cells. So the scientists and doctors are looking at this as a real viable path to finding a cure for hair cell related tinnitus, as well as other medical issues. And I could see this would be amazing for those with noise trauma induced tinnitus, such as my friend. But what about people such as myself, where it's much more of a neurological condition? Again, the doctor told me that there's no reason, in his opinion, why this kind of technology of regrowing cells couldn't be implemented to heal the brain of all manner of conditions, including tinnitus. But this is all theoretical stuff. However, this isn't going to be offered to any of us anytime soon. So what's my opinion on the Tinnitus Clinic, to sum up with? I'm still of the opinion that the best path to reducing your tinnitus is to heal and calm the mind. And as laborious as this is for me to go on about this again, because I know a lot of you will have heard it many times, what do I mean by this? Everything I and Julian Cohen-Hill have spoken about in their videos, all I can say is it's these methods that have got me to where I am now, not hearing my tinnitus at all during the day. And it is possible, because I've done it, so has Julian, that you can do this by yourself. If you're like myself and Julian and others who have found methods that have enabled you to find your path to where you're reducing your tinnitus to the point where you're not hearing it, then I would continue with what you're doing yourselves. As you're already, let me put it this way, you're already, if you're at that stage, as myself, you're already where this clinic would be trying to get you. Because at no point, talking to this doctor for the whole time that I was there, I should have mentioned this earlier, at no point did the doctor say that they can cure your tinnitus. In fact, when I went in there, God knows how many times I've heard this, and this is a tinnitus clinic telling me this. He actually said, there is no cure for this, you do know this. Right. Okay. So, as I say, if you're like myself and whatever methods you're using, I mean, if you're using my methods, Julian's methods, Liam's dietary approach, I don't care. Whatever's working for you. If you got to the point where you're not hearing it, I'd continue with that, because you're already at the stage where this clinic would be trying to get you to. They're not trying to cure your tinnitus, is what I got from this. However, if unfortunately you're finding it hard to make any significant progress with the methods that I and Julie and others advocate, and you are suffering badly, and I think for some people, if you haven't managed to get there by yourselves, they could well be of help in helping you reduce your tinnitus with what they offer, albeit at considerable cost. Having said that, I know that when my tinnitus was at its worst, I would have paid any amount of money to silence it, so I understand why people would go there and pay this amount of money for these devices. So I fully understand why people would do that. So really, it's a decision to be made, I feel, about going to this clinic and buying one of their auditory devices. I think it's a decision to be made on how long you've had your tinnitus in relation to where you are with your own recovery. If you're making good progress by yourself with whatever and whoever's methods you're using, my advice is to continue with that, as it's possible to get where I and Julian have got to. It is possible. To go over old ground. If you're new to my channel, because I've had quite a few new subscribers, if you're new to my channel, I will just say that when I was first struck with tinnitus, I was at a level 10, I was suicidal, and now I've got to a point where I don't hear it during the day. Okay, at all. But if you find you're not having any significant success with what I call natural methods, and you've been stuck for a long time, then it may well be worth you visiting the clinic to see what they could offer you. If you want any further information about the clinic, then take a look at their website. All the treatments and devices that they offer are there to read about. You can also book a consultation, although, as I said, it's at the cost of £200. I thought it was worth the £200 to listen to the doctor and speak to him, and just bounce our thoughts off each other, particularly when I got into the point where he was actually saying to me, your tinnitus is not caused by the hearing loss that you have, which is what I tried to get across to him right at the start. But there you go, we get there in the end. So if any of you do decide to visit the clinic, let me know what your experience is like with them. They are nice people. I like the doctor, he was very nice, and I think they're very genuine. They do genuinely want to help people. But as I say, bottom line is, if you get to where I am, Julian is, and other people have gotten to, where you're not hearing your tinnitus anymore, I don't see that there wouldn't be any point in going and spending £5,000, because you're already at the stage the Tinnitus Clinic would be trying to get you to. Okay, that's how I feel about that. It's just my opinion. Again, it's just my opinion. Okay, so that's it for this first video of the new year, after my long break away from YouTube. I'll do a Q&A video, I expect, next time when I make a video. And the other thing that I'm going to do, it'll probably be a short video. I've been making my home a tinnitus friendly environment, and I've done various things with my home to make it a calming, tinnitus friendly environment, but I'll do a quick video on that another time. Okay, that's it. Best wishes to you all, and I will see you all again soon. Bye bye.